What's up, everybody? Welcome to And Action, episode 52. I'm Tommy DiNucci, as always, here with my co-host Mikey Messier. Mike, how you
Hey,
doing today, brother?
I'm good, Tommy. And special belated birthday yesterday was Tommy's birthday, everybody. And I know Tommy, you got a lot of social media congratulations and cyber hugs and handshakes. So congratulations on surviving another year.
Thank you, man. I did it. I made it another trip around the sun, and I'm very thankful to be here. Very grateful for all the wonderful messages from so many different people. The cool thing about birthdays is, social media lets us connect with everybody, and you get people coming out of the woodwork from different parts of your life, people from your past, someone that you maybe haven't talked to in a long time, and it's nice when you see a little happy birthday message. So thank you, everyone, for that. I appreciate it. Now let's kick ass for another year. Today we've got a really fun topic. We're talking all about location, 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 baby. They say it's everything in life, and it's the same thing in movies. Where you decide to shoot your movie is so damn impactful, important. We're going to be talking all about some really helpful tips on how to scout locations, what you should be looking for in a location when you're trying to make a movie. And remember, guys, we're not talking about massive productions. We're talking about scouting locations for smaller independent projects where you're kind of a producer who wears many hats. Obviously, on big films, all these massive studio movies, you've got entire departments dedicated to locations, and it's very methodical. But today we're going to focus more on the smaller productions, independent productions, music videos, shorts, the kind of productions that we think our And Action viewers are really going to be diving into. So I'm excited to talk about that, Mike. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about last week's episode with Vincent Pastore. If you didn't catch that, I highly recommend it. And something that I didn't expect on the feedback front, or maybe I did expect it because it's true. I mean, Vincent's got such an inspirational story. I think what a lot of people took home from that episode was I got a lot of messages. Hey, Tom, I'm in my 40s and I've always wanted to act and I just never really got it off the ground. And I always thought it was too late. And, watching that episode made me feel pretty good that, like, hey, maybe there's still a chance. So I think that was kind of the biggest take home from Vincent's episode. If you think it's too late, if you think, oh man, I'm in my 40s, oh man, I'm pushing 50, I haven't done what I wanted to do yet, don't quit because Vinny didn't quit. He got into it late in life, and here he is. He's going to turn 77 in a couple of days. Happy birthday to Vincent, and he's still acting. So it's all about the back nine in life. Sometimes, to use a golf reference.
Hey, Tommy, if I could tell a little anecdote to kind of support what you just said. I was an acting coach in Rhode Island for about 10 or 12 years, and I got a student came to my classes who was in his 70s. And this guy had an established career as a journalist. He had a grown son that passed away at a young age who always encouraged the gentleman, his name was Bob Smith, to pursue creativity outside of journalism. And so Bob started taking my classes, and he was really quite good, Tommy. He had a life experience. He had a certain psychology to him. He had a certain, like I said,
Right.
life experience. And Bob got involved in local theater. I made a short film with him that you actually helped with at the tail end, Thanksgiving. And Bob had a great run of about 8 or 9 years. And he was actually in the Artist Exchange in Cranston, Rhode Island.
Never too late. Never too
Well,
late.
well,
Bob did
here's
it.
Bob did it, but here's the end. He was preparing to do a stage play in rehearsal, and unfortunately, he passed away. But the point is, Bob lived the last 10 years of his life fully engaged in theater, short films, acting, and he got a taste of the theater and the acting before he passed on. And I think it's actually an inspirational story. It's not about the end of passing away. It's the fact that, like you said, anybody in their 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, even 70s, like Bob, you can get into it.
Be like Bob. Be like Vincent. It's never too late. That's a cool story. I do remember Bob, and I remember him being pretty good in that short as well. Thanksgiving. So let's get into a couple other quick housekeeping things. I don't want to spend too much time on this because nobody's got the answers. But big day coming tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna find out what's up with SAG. Officially tomorrow at midnight, I believe Pacific Standard Time, we will know if the Screen Actors Guild is coming to terms and making a deal or they're going to go on strike. I got a lot of skin in this game because I'm hoping there isn't a strike. Because if there isn't a strike, I'm going down to Mississippi and making a movie. But if there is a strike, that's probably going to put things on hold. No, that's definitely going to put things on hold. So, everybody out in the and action community, collectively cross your fingers and hope that this deal is made. I don't want to see the actors get screwed. I want to see them make a good deal. But god damn it, I want to go to work too. So it'd be nice to make a movie this summer. So everyone think happy thoughts. Before we get into our location topic, let's just check in with everybody. Laza, good to see you, my brother. Good day from Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. One of our dear friends from down under. Actually, I think our only dear friend from Australia. And I appreciate the birthday greetings. Steven, thank you for the birthday greetings, brother. And yes, like Vincent Pastore, you got to live it up. It's never too late. Scott, thank you, brother. Appreciate the birthday wishes. Laza, I wonder if the same rules apply with indie movie locations for indie pro wrestling locations. Probably, Laza. At the end of the show, maybe we'll spend a couple minutes talking about that. I will need to catch up on Vincent's episode. Yeah, man, check that out. It was a good one and very inspirational. Laza says, I'm only 37. And on how old I am is good to know. It isn't too late for me to do shit. It's never too late. Fingers crossed. Paul, what's up, Paul? Good morning to you, and thank you very much for the birthday wishes. All right, let's get into it, guys. A great location can make the difference between having your movie appear to be big and beautiful and massive in scope, and we hear this term thrown around a lot. Make it look like a real movie, right? If you have the right location, you can truly make your short film, make your music video, or make your small independent feature really look massive. And you hear a term all the time called production value. And I use this term a lot, and they use it in the movie business all the time. And if you don't know what production value is, it's very simple. It's kind of like what I just said. Production value makes your movie look bigger. It makes your smaller movie look like a quote real deal movie or like a studio movie. So we always seek production value in anything. And having a great location gives you oodles. I'm talking goddamn oodles of production value. Now, if you don't have a good location, if you skimp on the scouting, if you get something at the last minute, if you don't put that thought in, right off the bat, your movie's going to look like shit. And I'm
Right.
not trying to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to, play around. If you're shooting in your friend's apartment that looks like a, college apartment, now maybe you're looking for that in your location, but chances are you're not. If you skimp on the location, your entire production is going to look chintzy, and people are immediately going to kind of see the seams, and they're going to see the puppet strings, and they're going to say, "Oh, wait a minute, this isn't really a high end kind of a thing." So today we're going to talk all about what you got to do to get these kind of locations, how to start those conversations, how to get the ball rolling, and just things to be aware of when you're looking for a location.
Yeah, Tommy, it's very important. I think that the two-word term you just used, production values, I mean, you know it when you see it. When you go see a movie and you see like cool buildings and beaches or churches or all that type of good stuff, you know that you're in something. And the reality, Tommy, is there's methods to get some of these better locations for a lesser price than one might expect, or sometimes even for free. So I'm sure we'll get into that.
Absolutely, Mike. So right into it. It really is everything. And the first thing that you want to do is, usually when I'm looking for a location, I do like a solo scout. That's like the first thing I do. I kind of, we're often trying to film in locations and areas near us, near where we live, right? I mean, that makes sense because it's kind of like in our everyday life, we're just naturally driving around and we might see a building that we like. We might see a park that we like. So basically, the first thing that I like to do when I'm looking for locations is I'll get in my car. Maybe I'll have just freshly kind of read the script, so it's fresh in my mind. Get in my car. I'll put on some music that I think kind of fits the vibe of the project that I'm working on. I'll listen to that music and I'll cruise around and I'll just go for a ride, man. And I'll drive all around my city, all around neighboring cities. I'll go and find spots that I like. And once I identify the location that I like, well, now we get into the world of okay, well, how do you get that location? Um, you know, there's a lot of aspects to this. But it all starts with like really the cold call, whether it's walking in there and saying what's up, and just, if it's a business, you walk in and you try to talk to a manager, or maybe you start with a phone call. But what you always want to try to do before you do any of that stuff is, and this is spoken like a true Rhode Islander, because if you're not from Rhode Island, one of the things they say about Rhode Island is everybody knows everybody. So sometimes the first thing that I'll do is, if I see a location I like, say it's a business, say it's a restaurant, I try to figure out, okay, who do we know? Do we know anyone that knows this business owner? Do we know anyone that's connected to this establishment? Is there a cousin, an uncle, a family, a friend that, that we can kind of tap into? Because it's always easier to land a location if you have some kind of an in, rather than doing the cold call like what I'm about to get into. But if you do have to do the cold call and you don't know anybody and you're just kind of looking for a spot, it's like anything else, guys. It's almost like you're representing the project, you're representing your company, you're representing yourself as an artist. These things may sound obvious, but to some people, believe it or not, I've seen people mess this up. But you want to walk in there, you want to be respectful, you want to make sure your hair's nice, and you have a nice shirt on, and you dress appropriately, some kind of business appropriate kind of attire when you walk into the location. And you want to lay it out like it's, yes, you're filming a movie, but this is also in a weird way a benefit to the people at the location. And you can explain to them that, a lot of little things like, this is great for press, this is great for exposure for your business. You want to sell it to them a little bit. You want to get your salesmanship out there. But a big thing is, and I know it sounds, again, this is such a judgmental world we live in. Try to look appropriate. You probably don't want to go into the location with like your if you're a horror movie fan, like you don't want to be wearing like a Jason t-shirt with like a knife dripping blood when you're walking into the location. You don't want to, look like you just rolled out of bed. Because if I'm about to let you into my space, I probably want to feel a little comfortable right off the bat that, like, okay, this is professional. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, if you go in and you're trying to speak to the manager or the owner of the venue, you'll turn your phone off for 10 minutes while you're talking to the person, just so you're not distracted if your phone beeps or whistles. It's not going to make you look like a cool Hollywood big shot. It's going to make you look like you're disrespectful to the person you're trying to engage with. One other little tip I might give Tommy: say you're trying to get a restaurant to be part of your movie as a location. Go into the restaurant and have dinner or lunch there a few times before you hit up the owner, just so that they're familiar with your face a little bit, so you're not coming on like a total stranger. And the third time you go in, you say, "Hey, I love this food so much. I love your restaurant so much. I happen to be making a movie, and I'd love to feature your wonderful restaurant in my film." Use simple psychology techniques. Make people feel good about the situation.
That's a great idea, Mike. Yeah, you got to sweeten the pot too. Another tactic that I've used many times is, people get excited about movies, whether you're shooting a short film, whether you're shooting a music video, or whether it is a full-blown feature with actors and people that we all know and have seen in television before, or on the screen before. People get excited about it. So feed off of that. This isn't going to work for everybody, and some people are going to flat out just be like, I'm not interested.
Right.
But there are a lot of people where if you say like, hey, if you'd like, you can feel free to invite as many friends and family to watch our production, take part in it, and kind of observe. And, people like to watch movies being made. It always fascinates me because, growing up practically since I was 17 or 18 on a movie set, to me, it's not that fascinating, but I could see how people, who don't really know much about it want to be there and they want to be part of that action. So offer that to them. Say, hey, bring whoever you'd like when we shoot. Another thing is, and I've had this happen, Mike, have you ever had this happen? You go to look for a location and the person who manages the location or the property owner, they say, I want to be in it. Can I be in it? I've actually had people flat out say, can I be in it? If they say, can I be in it? You say, absolutely. And you figure out a fucking way to get them in it, even if it is just as an extra or they just walk by for 2 seconds. Work with them. Like if you find like, ooh, they said, can I want to be in it, or can I be in it? Even if it was a half-assed joke, We all know that every joke comes from a place of truth. So they probably do legit want to be involved and have some interest in that. So feed into that.
Here's the thing, Tommy, with that, Tommy, if a business owner is asking you if they can be in the movie, you got to think that the business owner has some clue about money. And if they own this business, maybe they have investments or they have other money that they have earned in their life that they're willing to spend or are even looking for something to spend on. So sometimes people that have money don't dress or act like they do. They're modest or they're humble about it. But some of these folks, who knows? They could be a proprietor who is looking to be an investment person in your life as an artist. So you want to make these people feel good about working with you.
You never know, Mike. That's smart. You always got to be scouting for the cash. You never know who's got them deep pockets that you might meet on a location scout. Or like Mike said, I find that a lot of business owners own other businesses. There's a lot of these guys that are kind of guys and girls, people of all kinds that are these jacks of all trades. And we're shooting at this restaurant that I own, but guys, I also own a car wash down the street. Do you need that too? Or I got a bank that my friend manages or whatever. Business people tend to know other business people, and those synergies can start to get built. All right, and then here's an obvious one. We talked a little bit about this, but I've shot at locations where I've basically said, like, I've promised them that, like, we'll get a really nice shot of their sign or a really nice shot of their building and use that in the movie or the production. Open up a scene where we start on the sign and we tilt down and we see our characters walking in. Again, it just gives them a little more like bang for their buck. Like, okay, well, that's cool. They're going to feature my place. Now, this is kind of the tricky one at times, and this one depends on your budget. But to pay or not to pay, that is the question. Now listen, guys, paying for a location is going to always sting, because who the hell wants to pay for anything? We're making low budget movies. We're trying to save as much as we can. But I will say this, sometimes just offering a little bit of money can go a real long way. And you'd be shocked. There are some locations that you can lock down, and I don't want to give away all my secrets on And Action. But there are places that I'm not going to name where I've shot in and I just said, look, we're a really low budget movie, but I understand that, we're going to be using your electricity. We're going to be interfering with your business to some degree by being there. You got to get a little something out of it. Chances are most businesses that you shoot in, they'll tell you like, oh, well, I need to have one of my people here all day to sort of oversee the facility. And it's worth offering. I'm not kidding. $200, $400, which, really isn't a great deal of money in the grand scheme of things. If you offer like, hey, we're going to be here all day, but I can give you $300, and then maybe that person can hire one of their underlings to kind of supervise for the day. And let me tell you something, guys. I've been there before. You're going to say, oh man, why pay $300-400 for this guy to just kind of sit around and watch us all day? It's really good to have what I call a liaison of, you've got your facility liaison, if you will, on set. So that way, if the power goes out, this guy knows right where everything is. If there's a door that's suddenly locked that we didn't realize is locked, he's probably got the key. He knows the inner workings of the building. They know where people can and can't park. They know, oh, that neighbor's crazy. You probably want to stay away from them. It's not a bad thing to pay the location a little money and get sort of like this set representative from on their end, so you kind of know the rules. And again, sometimes people would like to see you just making any monetary effort. An effort goes a long way. When you're trying to like just rip everything off for free, people are okay with that in the beginning, but then you can rub them the wrong way eventually. Whereas if you just say like, hey, look, we're a low budget film. I don't have much, but I can give you $200 for the day. Again, that's not going to change anyone's life, but you're making a fucking effort to put a little money in someone's pocket at least. And I think that effort goes a long way.
Hey, Tommy, I can tell you a guy that did something I thought was really distasteful and a lesson that can be learned. This gentleman was making a short film. He was filming the week between Christmas and New Year's. He actually had people coming out all hours. Well, He did his first scene in a bar, first couple of nights, and then that bar kicked him out. I'm not sure why. He finds himself shooting in a Chinese restaurant for the next 4 or 5 nights. As far as I know, he didn't pay the Chinese restaurant any money. And I think he wasn't really providing much in terms of catering for the actors that were coming in late. So one night I do come in, and there is some food there for the actors at the Chinese restaurant. He brought some pizzas in from somewhere else. Not the Chinese restaurant did not serve pizzas. So I'm basically thinking, okay, you're getting this Chinese restaurant for free. This is the second location. You're not paying your actors or your crew. And instead of just buying a bunch of General Chow's chicken and pork fried rice and lo mein for your cast and crew and maybe tipping the servers at the Chinese restaurant, you brought $20 worth of Domino's pizza in. And I found it to be extremely distasteful. And this was not a person that I worked with again in the future, because it was so disrespectful to the restaurant, to the cast and crew, and just to common sense.
Yeah, guys, use your head. I mean, use your head. A lot of this stuff's very obvious. It's like, if you're filming in a restaurant, you probably should just make a deal with the proprietor of the restaurant to feed your crew in that, at the restaurant. So good point, Mike. One hand really does wash the other, and if you find a way to get these people some business that you're shooting at their location, they're going to be grateful for it. Here's some other things to be mindful of when you're scouting for locations. You never want to swerve the owner. And what I mean by that, swerve is a fun wrestling term that we use for when you surprise someone with a piece of information that they weren't aware of. Nobody likes to be swerved. Nobody likes to think the deal is this way, and then you change things on them. You swerve them. No swerves. So what I mean by that is, if you be very upfront about everything, because the average person thinks they know what a movie shoot is like, but they have no fucking clue how massive and how much of a movie set is. Like sometimes like a clown car, in the sense where you just see the one clown car and then suddenly like dozens of clowns get out of the fucking one car, and you're like, where is all this shit coming from? So like a couple movie trucks might show up. Those trucks open up and all the gear comes out, and it just engulfs the entire space. And suddenly the little coffee shop that you agreed to let you shoot there, there's just gear everywhere. There's dozens of people milling around working. There's cars lined up and down the street. So what I mean by don't swerve them is tell people right off the bat, like, hey, listen, this is the size of my production. We're going to have about 10 crew members. We're going to have about 5 actors. We're going to be parking roughly 10 to 15 cars at a certain point. We do have one box truck that's going to have to be parked close to the building. Be very upfront about all this stuff, because what you don't want to have happen is the business owner casually says yes, kind of downplays mentally the size and scope of everything. Right. And then on the day of shooting, they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what's with all these people? I can't have people parked there. We can't have the truck here. No, I only need, I can only have a certain amount of people in the building at a time, whatever. So don't swerve them. Be very upfront. If you think that you're going to, if you, like, for example, like sometimes I've had people like not tell the location owner about the content. Like, if you're going to kill someone in the space and there's something really violent happening, you got to tell them that. You're going to perform an exorcism in their coffee shop or do something horrible or whatever. They might want to know, or if something really graphic is happening in their place, they might want to know. So another tip, and this will make the property owner feel really cool too, because they're going to feel like they're part of the deal. Give the owner the script pages. You don't have to give them the whole script, but give them the pages like, hey, these are the pages that we plan on shooting in here. I want you to read this and make sure you're comfortable with everything. Because again, you would hate to have them kind of thinking it's one thing, it becomes something else. Then they watch the footage and they say, I'm not signing off on this. You can't use this footage. This makes my place look crazy or whatever. So just don't swerve them. Don't think you're getting away with something by like, ooh, we'll get this location and then we'll sneak this shot in and they'll never see it. They're not going to be there all day. Fuck that. That's only going to set you up for disappointment later. Just be very open with them, and they're going to appreciate that openness.
Well, Tommy, sometimes people take it for granted. As a writer, I might, you might, anybody else might write a bunch of, swear words in their script. And for you or I, that might be no big deal. But if the business owner say they just don't like swearing because of religious reasons or anything else, it might be a big deal to them. Or even if there's a kissing scene, you might say, well, it's no big deal. It's just a kiss. Well, maybe the people there are very conservative in that type of thing, and they don't want that. It's best to just go ahead and offer to show them the script and at least give them the overview of what's going to take place there. Because Tommy, I think your overall point that you're getting at is, isn't it a tragedy when you've got everything at a location and then suddenly the filmmaker and the owner or manager are not on the same page, and that's like a sinking horrible feeling in the gut of your stomach. You've got all these people, you've got your actors have memorized their lines, you've got your crew ready to film, and now what are you going to do? Where do you go? Because at the end of the day, Tommy, even if you have something in writing, this and in some regard.
Yeah, Mike, there's no question. Let me tell you, and I've seen it happen once or twice, and I've been doing this for a long time, and it doesn't happen very often. But I have seen a location be lost, meaning at the last minute, for whatever reason, whether it's a conflict of schedule or whether it's flat out the owner got cold feet and said, you know what, I don't want this here. Losing a location at the last minute can be detrimental to your project. It can literally derail an entire production. And we've talked about this on the show before. We don't need to get into it again, but we all know how much money each day of production costs. So if you thought that you were going to be filming that day and suddenly you don't have a place to film and you're you're sitting there twiddling your proverbial thumbs, it's going to cost you a bunch of money that you don't want to spend on nothing. So, just make sure you have everything very much, be upfront and clear with them. Another thing that you want to be looking out for is, guys, let's face it, nature calls, and everybody has to go to the bathroom at one time or another. And if you're on a movie set and you're drinking coffee, you're going to have to go quite a bit, maybe. So I almost always opt to rent porta johns whenever I can. Like if you're at a facility, even if it's a house that has a bathroom, even if it's a restaurant that has a bathroom, I always like to get a couple of porta johns and drop them down in the parking lot. And yes, this is an expense. Sometimes that can cost $300 or $400. And I know you're saying to yourself, well, they got bathrooms in the place. Why would we do that? The reality is when you have a bathroom at home, you've got maybe your family of 3 or 4 using it, and you're using it, on occasion, whatever. Most home bathrooms weren't designed to have 30 or 40 people go in and out of them like a goddamn New York City subway station. Like bathrooms for the home weren't designed for that. The traffic, all that toilet flushing, all that faucet pulling. The last thing you want to do is fuck someone's bathroom up. And now suddenly the $300 for the porta john ends up being $1,000 that you got to pay to a plumber because you guys fucked the toilet up, or fucked the bathroom up, or one of your grips, I hate to pick on grips, but one of your grips pulled the faucet out or whatever, something bad happened. So again, sounds like something simple, but it's one of those extra expenses that's sometimes really worth it. And again, it's going to always make that homeowner just feel better, or that location owner just feel better. That's another thing that when you're trying to sweeten the pot and convince people to shoot, you can say, well, listen, we know you got bathrooms in here, and maybe if we could use that bathroom just for like our talent, maybe only 2 or 3 actors will be using the bathroom in the house, and our entire crew will be using the porta johns outside. That homeowner might say, okay, well, that's a lot easier than having 30 people running in and out of my bathroom for 12 hours.
Yeah, it gives them some reassurance, and you're right, Tommy. Especially if it's a homeowner's private home, it's a little, it's one thing to use somebody's living room or a guest bedroom or the front lawn or the porch, but to use someone's private bathroom, I can see where that could be a deal breaker for some potential locations. So to have that option of using the porta john system, that's a good idea.
Well, and it's not just for it's not just for the location owner too. I mean, think about it. Just for production sense, you're a smaller production. You're filming inside of a home. Do you really want to stop production every time someone needs to flush the toilet, or like someone's in the bathroom? Oh, I can hear the vent on. Hold on. So
Right.
it's just better to have that business be taken care of somewhere else away from set. Um, another thing is, again, on a bigger production, this is probably more towards the world of a feature. Have a good location manager. Make sure that even on your small, say under a couple $100,000 feature, you should still have a location manager that has built a rapport with all of the owners of the various locations, a person who knows who to call in an emergency, a person who, like I said before, when that key won't work to this door, which key do I use, or whatever. Remember, every second, guys, I can't stress this enough to you. Every second that you're idle on a movie set, you're you're really hurting yourself. So even if it's just 5 or 10 minutes because we couldn't get this door to open, or how do you get the garage to how do we where do we load all this equipment? We've got to ask the homeowner first, whatever. Just have all that shit ironed out. And if you have a locations manager who's competent, that kind of knows all the lay of the various lands that you're going to be shooting on, they're going to come in handy. And another thing too is it's nice to have a location manager because every homeowner, every business owner, they're going to have rules, and they should. God damn it, they got a bunch of animal crew members running around. So yeah, you got to have rules, right? But you got to have somebody kind of teach those rules of the road, so to speak, to the crew. So a locations manager is great to kind of act as that person who says like, okay, heads up, everybody, don't use this room, don't go down that hallway, try to park your cars on the street over here, avoid this street. So it's great to have a location manager just to kind of manage the location, man. It's right in the word.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that you're getting at too, Tommy, is sometimes, I'm not trying to pick on young people, but people that maybe are inexperienced crew members or cast, it's kind of like a teenager who goes to a party at their friends' parents' house when the parents are out of town. Like, sometimes people just kind of say, "Oh, this is an awesome place. Let me kick off my shoes. Let me smoke my cigarettes." Man, I think are the worst thing when people smoke cigarettes. They don't realize that a lot of people don't smoke cigarettes, and a bunch of cigarette butts in their front lawn is pretty disrespectful for non-smokers. So if you're a cigarette user, if you're going outside, take the extra effort to have your soda cup or whatever, your soda can, as your ashtray. Just don't throw your cigarette butts all over the yard thinking you're at some type of college party. And some of this stuff is common sense, but we've both seen people not use common sense. When you're going to someone else's home, and if you're the director or the producer or the locations manager, it's kind of your job to tell the rest of the cast and crew, hey, look, we can't act like this is just a frat house to put our shoes up and to just rock and roll here. We got to be respectful because all at the end of the day, Tommy, you want to be invited back. If you're lucky enough to get a sequel or another movie and you can use the same location in the future, wouldn't you rather be thought of as someone that wants to be invited back to that same location rather than they're like, we're not doing that again?
Yeah, Mike, you bring up a great point there, and I think in the comments we're going to check in on some of these comments. But Steven has one here that I'm going to just pick on. As they say, one tells 1,000, so be upfront. Reputation is everything, and in a smaller place, especially, I'm from Rhode Island, so it's like I live in a small state, and word travels fast. So you can quickly get a reputation as, oh, that's the crew that fucked up my house, or oh, that's the crew that destroyed my floor and never paid for it. Or there are a lot of, listen, I'm not going to name names, and fortunately I haven't been a part of too many productions like this, but some movie crews can be like locusts, and they can kind of like just come to a location and just fuck shit up, destroy property, scuff the walls, nick the floors. You can really, a movie set, a movie crew and a movie company can really yield that, really deal out some serious damage to a building. Remember, you got crew members carrying around massive metal stands. It's like they're walking around with fucking spears. and these tiny little hallways. It's so easy to just scuff something and nick something. And yes, even when you take all the proper precautions, like you lay ram board down on the floor and you put cardboard on all the carpeting, and something is still going to get fucked up. So just be very mindful of that, because reputation is everything, and it doesn't take too many fuck ups for people to start spread the word that, oh, that production company, they come in and they just fuck things up and they don't give a shit and they're disrespectful. So yes, all the little things. It's funny. It's almost like you hear this in boxing, like once the fighters start to get tired, they start to get lazy, and maybe they drop their hands a little bit, maybe their mechanics fail because they're tired. That happens in filmmaking too. You get a little tired and you stop caring about the normal, like, oh, I should flick my cigarette in the trash and not on the fucking street, or oh, I should not just leave this soda can here. So be careful when you're. I know it's fun and we're all in the creative zone and we're thinking about the movie, but just because you're thinking about the movie and you're tired about the movie, don't forget that you're in somebody else's space, and just respect it. And I know, like we said, we sound like we're kind of, we don't mean to talk down about this stuff, but I've just seen so much just like real blatant disrespect to locations in my ears, and it can be a real problem for you.
Tommy, when you're talking, I was thinking of that song "Wrecking Ball" by Miley Cyrus, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking we could make a music video to Miley's "Wrecking Ball" song, where the film crew comes in and they're smashing up everything.
I worked on a movie, not too long ago where, and this is the thing too, guys, sometimes you can get a little surprise. You don't
Right.
think you're going to spend all this movie. And this was a bigger movie. This was probably, again, we're talking more in the six-figure budgetary range. And it was filmed at a location. And then afterwards, it was like a beautiful kind of old school house. And afterwards, the proprietors slapped a massive bill on the movie company for like to the tune of almost $30,000
Wow.
to refurbish this, and they had it itemized and all line itemed, and you did this, you fucked that up, the banister here is fucked up. And at the end of the day, like, yeah, they were able to negotiate that number down a little bit, but my point is, like, if you're not careful, that old phrase there, hidden fees, watch out for the hidden fees in life. Well, that's a big hidden fee for your movie. It's like, oh my God, this cost us 20 something thousand on the way out to fix this house. And, it's probably a lot more than what your location budget had allotted. So just be careful, because this stuff will really get you. Let's talk about a couple of other important things. This kind of connects to what I just talked about. A location agreement, right? You're going to want a location agreement. You're going to want a piece of paper that basically lays it all out. And you can go online and, just really, if you Google location agreement boilerplate movie you'll find all these things online if you want to have a little template. But basically, a location agreement is just a piece of paper that the movie company signs and the location signs, and it basically says, we're going to shoot on this day from this time. We will be responsible for this, and this. You guys will do this for us. We promise to not do this, and that. It's an agreement, guys. It's the lay of the land. And again, like, if you have this paperwork ready when you do your pitches to these locations and you're trying to get locations, having these materials will make you look legit, rather than just walking in there and saying, oh, can we shoot here? And then the guy says, yeah, okay. Well, do I sign? They're always going to say, like, do I sign a contract? Like, what do I do? So just, again, in the interest of trying to look as professional and above board as possible, if you come equipped with this, yeah, and here's just so you can look at it. Here's a standard location agreement. We can add some things to it if you want. And again, listen, you don't need to get an attorney for this. This doesn't need to, be a major expense. It's just going to make you look a little more legit if you have. And then here's the kind of the scary one. I saved this for last because it's scary. And it's one of the more challenging things. And really what it comes down to is just dollars and cents and having the right amount of money in your budget for it. But most businesses and most homeowners, if they're not a total fucking idiot, one of the first things they're going to say to you once they agree, or if they're deciding to agree to let you shoot there, is going to be, do you guys have insurance? You're going to hear that right away. Because let's face it, if we go there with our best intentions of being a happy-go-lucky movie crew and we're going to go film at this guy's house here and somebody falls off a ladder and dies, as tragic as that sounds, who's responsible for that? Shit. Now, listen, it's pretty unlikely that someone's going to die on a movie set, but it does happen. I mean, it's happened, as morbid as that is to say. But let's even take it down a peg. Let's not talk so extreme with death. But I was working on a movie year before last, and a crew member was on a ladder, slipped, and hit the ground from about a 9-foot drop, and basically broke his hip,
Okay.
and twisted his knee, and knee's all fucked up. Now the production had insurance; it's all good, everything was good. Had the production not had insurance, that guy could have sued the fucking pants off of the production for a fortune. And not only sued the pants off of the production, but probably the actual establishment as well would have been liable. So it's one of those things where, believe it or not, people do get hurt often enough on a movie set where this is something that you really do have to think about. And you're probably saying, well, what does insurance cost for a production? Well, it's different for every production. And again, you can go on Google and look for local insurance agents in your area, and a lot of them will put together these unique policies. They'll do like what's called an umbrella policy, where they can insure your production wherever you go, so to speak, so that when you do go to make your production and that property owner says, "Are you guys insured?" You can say, "Yep, here's our insurance. We have an umbrella policy up to X amount of dollars. It covers everything up to this and that." And that's going to make them feel very, very warm and fuzzy, because otherwise they're taking a massive fucking risk. Because if someone gets hurt, it's on their homeowner's insurance, it's on their property insurance. So you might be asking, well, what does this cost? Well, it depends. Again, a lot of it has to do with, you'll actually have to submit your script to the insurance company and they'll read it. If you got a lot of stunts, if there's a lot of action, it could cost a lot of money. It costs more. If you don't have a lot of action and it's just kind of dialogue and you're just kind of like general insurance and things like that, you could be looking at between $3,000 and $10,000 for production insurance. And again, I know that sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but the reality is you will be very glad that you paid that 3 to 5 to maybe even 10 grand if something awful happens. Because let's face it, an injury like on set, it can financially ruin you. It really can. And I know I'm sounding dramatic, but these are the kind of things that can just devastate you financially. So get some insurance. And if here's my last, don't take me to court if you do this and something goes wrong, but I have done this before. If I can't afford insurance, there were some projects that I worked on early on where the extra 5 grand just was not there for insurance. It wasn't there. And what I did was, and again, you can go online and you can find templates for this, or I bet you if you use AI, I bet you that little chatbot app there can do it for you. But you want to write what's called a letter of indemnification. And basically, if you have a letter of indemnification and it's written up properly, you can basically state, and I'm pretty sure this is fairly binding. Please don't quote me. I'm not an attorney. But this is basically like the cheap way of getting insurance. It's not really insurance, but you're basically saying this is a document that we both sign that says if anyone gets fucked up on this movie, I'm going to pay for it. Now, just be aware that when you do give someone that letter of indemnification, or letter of indemnity in this case, I guess you'd say, that holds you responsible. So you have to be very careful, because if you do sign off on that and say, yeah, okay, I'll take the heat if something happens, and something does happen, again, you could be paying for someone's $50,000 hospital bills if they fall off of a ladder and break their hip. So again, these are the probably less sexy, less fun things to talk about in the world of movies,
Right.
but they're just as necessary as doing your shot list, as preparing your actors, because the reality is not having insurance might be the difference between getting that dream location that's going to make your movie really special.
Yeah, Tommy, I was just thinking about how easy is it for somebody to twist an ankle. You know what I mean? Like people twist their ankle across the world millions of times a week, I'm sure. And if you are responsible for your cast or crew member who twists their ankle moving around your location, that could be an expense. So, I mean, I think what you said about insurance is pretty interesting and pivotal.
Not the fun stuff to talk about, but equally important. All right, guys, I'm gonna give you some quick hits now, just on, when I'm out scouting locations, what are some things that I'm thinking about? What are some things to be aware of? So this is just gonna be like a quick hit list of things to watch out for. So right away, I'm looking for unique architecture. I'm looking for places that are different, cool angles, places that have interesting windows, things that are different. Different is always interesting. Um, I'm looking for large spaces. A lot of people don't realize, again, we talked about it a little bit with the clown car reference, but man, one van full of movie equipment can just consume a space, like it just explodes. So suddenly, that living room, that when you're walking around with no gear and no actors and no crew and your initial scout, and you're like, okay, it's got a couch, it's got a love seat, end table there. It's a pretty big room. But then the second you put up like even one light stand, that room gets so fucking small. And now you put up another light. That room's even tinier. Now you put a dozen people milling about the room. And your living room that seemed really spacious when you first walked it now looks like a fucking tiny closet apartment in New York City. So always be looking for bigger. You want massive rooms because, again, you're just going to gobble up space. Be aware of where the sun rises and where the sun sets. Those are kind of just simple things. Take lots of photos when you go on these location scouts. Obviously, be careful when you're taking photos. Don't just pull up to some random person's house and start taking pictures. You'd probably go to jail for that. Do it discreetly. But figure out where the sun's going to rise and set, because that might be right off the bat, like, okay, where we want to plan certain shots based on magic hour or whatever have you, or establishing shots. Be aware of where the parking's at. I've scouted many of locations that I'm like, man, this place would be great, but where the fuck are we going to park everybody? Like, where's the trucks going to go? Where's the crew going to go? So there might be some locations that are great, but logistically, it just doesn't make sense because you just don't have the parking, and it's just the real estate isn't there. Look for potential noise pollution. What I mean by that is, yeah, this might be a dream location, but guess what? It's located right next to an elementary school. So every day you're going to hear kids running around outside. You're going to hear the school bell ringing, or maybe the location happens to be on an airport pathway. So all you doing is hearing fucking planes flying over your head all day long. These are things that you don't think about right away, but your eyes get bigger than your stomach. You see a location that you love, and you don't realize that you're on a fucking flight path, and your noise is it's just gonna be all day long planes landing. So it might not be the best place. This is a big one. Power. Does your space have adequate power? The lights that we use on these films, it's not like plugging a lamp in. It requires a serious amount of wattage. So again, when you're scouting, that's probably more for that like initial scout. Once you get your DP, once you get your gaffer with you, make sure all the power has what you need. It's all adequate. And if it doesn't, you're going to have to bring generators in, and that's another expense. So again, all these things that we do, they're all to prepare us to save money and be as efficient as we can be. Does the location have additional rooms for holding, additional rooms for crew to set up shop? We talked about facilities, bathrooms, things like that, always going to be important. Proximity. Is this location close to other locations? There have been times when I'm shooting a movie, and yeah, this might be the dream location, but that dream location's 45 minutes away from our main location. Whereas the second choice location might not be as great, but it's 4 minutes away. We can practically walk there. So it just makes more sense. So sometimes you're going to have to take a hit creatively in order to have everything close by. And then finally, this is a big one too. I've actually been hurt by this one before. I love to shoot with a lot of haze, a lot of atmosphere in the things that I shoot, fog machines, things like that. What are the fire alarm systems like in this place? Can they be shut off and flipped on and flipped off? Are there smoke detectors everywhere? Is this going to be one of those things where, Mike, I think you remember this. I was filming a movie called Almost Mercy. We were shooting in a church, about to get things going, and then the fire alarm goes off because I'm hazing up the building. Thankfully, I think it was the Wickford Fire Department or the North Kingstown Fire.
Yeah.
They came pretty quickly and sussed the situation out, shut the alarms down, and they even offered to stay and hang out while we were shooting because to get the shot, it required the fire alarms to be off. So they were like, well, just to be on the safe side, we'll hang around for an hour. So that was really nice of them. So, but again, it could have went the other way, and that could have ruined the entire day. As it is, we only were down for about 40 minutes. So,
Tommy, imagine if a sprinkler system went. A sprinkler system would have started. This did not happen, folks. But in a hypothetical nightmare, if a sprinkler system went off on your actors, but most importantly on your equipment, so your $20,000 camera or your $50,000 camera is suddenly getting sprinkled upon, and before anybody knows what to do, you have wires and cables and things that are plugged in the wall. In a sense, you were kind of lucky because it could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Suddenly, it would have become a rain scene, and we would have to rewrite and say, "Oh, there's a leak in the building of the church." So, Mike, as we wrap things up, and I do want to go in, I'm going to go back and get to all of our commenters, and we're going to chat with everybody on the line. But before we go into it, let's just talk for a few minutes about some of our favorite locations that we've ever filmed in. I've got two that come to mind right off the bat, and I think I know the one that you're going to pick. But my two are back to one of my favorite movies I made, Almost Mercy. We shot in the old Woonsocket High School, which is now defunct, and I'm pretty sure it's a ghost town. And let me tell you, this was 10 years ago, and that building was scary, dank, and decrepit 10 years ago. So God only knows what it's like now. But the cool thing about this building is it was a defunct old high school, middle school combo from, I think it was built in like the 50s. And the great thing about it is it was almost untouched, as if one day school closed out and everybody just left, like to the point where there was still like chalk on the chalkboard. There were still lessons written on the chalkboard. There was still like the date. It was very bizarre. And after learning more about the building, that is kind of what happened. Like they were in the middle of school, a new building was built, and it was as if like, okay, mid-year, everybody just go to the new building. So it was very much like a ghost town, and it was just kind of cool and eerie to walk around the place. But what I loved about it from a filmmaking standpoint is in this one location, we used it for a high school. We used it for a prison. We used it for a police station. We just got so many different locations out of this one location. And that's, when you have a big municipal building and it's empty, you can really start getting creative and being like, oh, you know what, this could be that. And we can use this as that. So very dynamic. And the second place that I shot, which I'm going to not talk too much about this because we're going to do a whole couple of Vault episodes coming up down the road. But I shot in the Superman building, which is a famous building in downtown Providence. And it was an old bank, and we shot the movie Vault there. And there was this amazing vault that a production designer would have spent millions of dollars trying to recreate and build. And it was just sitting there right in the bottom of the building. And when I say a vault, I'm talking like literally out of a movie, as they say. You could drive a car, you could almost drive a small car into this vault door. That's how big it was. Definitely, you could have definitely drove like one of those Mini Coopers right into the fucking vault. That's how big it was. So really cool to have these locations because again, it all comes down to production value. Like I just said, you would have had to spend the entire budget of the vault budget to recreate the bank that had that look, so it's just, I thought of it like hitting the lottery because suddenly now my movie has this amazing look. And I don't want to say we got it for free because of course we paid for the location, but a look that we could have never achieved in any other way from that location. Mike, I have a feeling your favorite location was the Manor. You want to talk a little bit about the Manor?
It's definitely in the top three. The Manor was fun for the film The Manor, aka Anders Manor, and those people, the couple that owned this bed and breakfast, were so kind to the production and to us as people. Maybe their direct door neighbors weren't so much, but that's okay. But the people that owned the actual, what was the name of that place? The Manor. It was like a Zen
I think it was
yoga.
called Eden Manor or something.
Yes, and we actually had a sign made. I think your team made a sign for Anders Manor, but Eden Manor. This place was, 5 minutes up the road from the coffee house I used to go to all the time, buddy. Java Madness. So I mean, it was very backyard for me. We had Kevin Nash there, and it was really fun. And and they really stayed out of our way, and that's not to be disrespectful to them, but they had their own business and family to deal with. But that was nice that they trusted us to kind of shoot there, and that location gave a lot to both the film and the 5-minute promotional teaser we filmed the year before. The other two that I would mention in Rhode Island, the Courthouse Center for the Arts, where I filmed a bunch of stuff. It turned out to be a bunch of stuff. The silent film Disregard, the Disregard the Vampire Mike Messier documentary, and a couple of teasers came from this place. This is a place that's kind of an unknown gem as far as locations venue in Rhode Island. They have music there. They have yoga classes, acting classes, and for a week they let me film a movie there. And they even had a kind of a promotional event a month before for the production. And then the final place is really literally down your street, Tommy. It's the Time Capsule. It's a comic book store. I filmed just a scene for a short film there that I wrote and directed, Wrestling with Sanity short film trilogy. And we were only there for about an hour, but that's all we needed. But the place has such a history of guys buying comic books and CDs, and just like a cool place where it was so easy to film there. The owner at the time, Rob, let me film there for free. And for what we needed, just a quick 1-minute shot of a comic book store, it really worked out well. So even in the smallest state of the country, Rhode Island, it's got so many locations and a lot of private businesses, man. This is the thing, Tommy. You're not going to go into a Barnes and Noble and get to film there for free or for close to free. But if you go to a place like the Time Capsule or a local restaurant or something like the Courthouse Center for the Arts, if you're nice, respectful, and if you can make a deal that works for the owner or manager, you can really bulk up your production values pretty easily.
Yeah, there's no question, Mike. Going with the mom and pop stores always are going to be your best bet. Try to avoid corporate places. Shooting in a corporate place is going to be almost impossible for you if you're a small movie. In terms of just, there's going to be costs. They're going to have to run it up the chain of command, so to speak. It's not as simple as, like Mike said, you go into a privately owned comic book shop. Chances are the owner of the comic book shop is going to be behind the counter anyway. So it's not like, I got to run that up I got to talk to the executive board about that. You're going to get an answer pretty quickly. So guys, that kind of wraps it up for our talk on locations. I'm going to go back and go into some of these comments. But before I do that, and feel free to drop them down as I interact with the comments here, we want to open things up to our And Action faithful. If you have any ideas of topics that you'd like us to talk about, today was fun to chat about locations. Do you want to learn more about sound design? Do you want to learn more about, possibly cinematography? Whatever it is, if you've got an idea of a topic that involves film that you'd like us to get into, drop it down in the comments, and we'll see if it makes sense, and try to get chatting about some of the things that y'all are really interested in. Because remember, one of the main reasons why we do this show is to interact with everybody and kind of help people, because this business has so much bullshit in it. There are so many people that think they know what the fuck they're talking about, and they really don't. And I'm not trying to sound like I'm some kind of a fucking expert, but I've been doing this my whole life. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I'm not afraid to share those mistakes with you. And hopefully you can zig where I zagged, and you can get away with it and not have to share some of the burdens that I have over the years.
Hey, Tommy, I got a question for you.
Go ahead, Mike.
I got a question for you on a personal note. Now that you've had a recent birthday, and you know how people have New Year's resolutions, but your birthday is right in the middle of the year, which is kind of interesting. Do you have any, my birthday year resolution? Do you have any resolution just as a private thing that, well, I guess it wouldn't be private if you share it with the whole audience, but any resolutions as you move forth into a new year of life, professionally, personally, socially, anything in between that you want to share with the audience?
You know, Mike, this has been a really weird couple of months for me, mainly because there's been a lot of uncertainty. You know, this actors strike has just really, or potential actors strike has really hit me with a lot of uncertainty, and it's hard for me in a business where it's so important to, like a chess player, be planning your moves several moves in advance. It's been almost impossible to do that. So really, I'm just hoping to. I'm going to answer that next week on the show.
You
And
need a whole week.
I'm going to tell you why. Because I mean this, and I don't mean this to be fresh or to avoid the question. If there is an actor's strike,
Yeah.
and I know that I'm probably not going to be making a movie for at least the rest of the summer, well, I'm going to have to zig instead of zag. I'm going to have to adapt. I'm going to have to, kind of learn a new hold, as they say.
Right.
So that'll kind of impact my resolution for the next year. And it would just change the way I answer the question. Because if I know I'm going to shoot a movie next week, or start prepping a movie next week, my resolution is going to be to make the greatest movie that I've ever made in my life.
Right.
But if I'm not going to shoot a movie next week, my resolution is going to change a little bit. So
You might have to start take up painting, Tommy. You might have to take some painting lessons from your buddy Mike Messier, the foreign object.
That guy looks very excited to be there. Let's talk to some of our people here.
See what the comments are.
Let's see what's up, guys. Michael Whitney, what's up, brother? Good to have you with us here.
Somebody had a long question there. Here it is. Oh, Charlie from overseas.
It's our dear friend Charlie from far away. I was just visiting a location today. Mostly, I took in my address book for existing warm relations. It's a good idea. It's always good to you're almost like a detective, right? You're going to go kind of talk to all the suspects, keep a dossier of everyone. Always good to be personable. If people like you, they're probably going to let you shoot in the building. Let's be honest. Laza says, when I do shopping at the supermarket, when buying my stuff, I look for a hot chick. If there was one to pay for my stuff. Would that work for indie locations movies? Laza, that's adorable, but I don't think that would work. Okay, we're going to have to pass by a couple of these. Simple respect goes a long way. Business owners for indie film locations, also in everyday life. Absolutely, man. People want to associate with people they can trust. One tells 1,000, so be upfront. This I like this comment that Steven made because it also tells you, like, your reputation can just spread so fast. So if you're known as the people that are kind of like the fucking bad news bears of filmmaking, and you come in and you wreck the joint up, they're going to find out.
Hey, Tommy, I wanted to jump on that point you made it earlier, because I found in Rhode Island, especially being a small state, that as a filmmaker, big production, middle size, or even small, you're actually not just representing yourself as a filmmaker and your team, you're representing every other filmmaker in the state. So if you're a person who goes in with a crew, a small crew, a big crew, whatever, and really wrecks the place or causes problems or is disrespectful, yes, you're hurting yourself, but you're also hurting the other filmmakers in your community that you don't even know, whether they're friends of yours, people you care for, people you don't care for. And Tommy, I found that a lot of times I would go to a location and then they would have some horror story of even 5, 10, 15
Sure.
years earlier, when some kid, whatever they considered that person, came in with a bunch of promises. We won't break anything. We won't damage anything. And everything got damaged and everything got broken. A lot of times those productions never even had a finished product to show for their efforts or lack of efforts. And so if you're a filmmaker, I think the word I'm looking for, buddy, is responsibility, accountability, not only for yourself, but the other potential filmmakers in your area. I don't think a lot of people don't think about stuff on that level, or they don't care. They're just in it for themselves. So that can be very frustrating when you're trying to do right by people, when other people have done wrong and essentially ruined the market.
Yeah, I've actually encountered that myself, where you go to a location and the person quickly says, no, we did that once. We had a movie shoot here. It was a disaster. So you're right. You can kind of spoil the soup for everybody if you're a little fuck. Pardon my French. All right, let's keep reading. All right. Laza, Laza, you got a lot to say today, brother,
He's,
and I
he's an
love you.
active
Yeah,
Australian.
I love you for that. Also, they may think of the rep for the business, so they might want to know what is being filmed, so they can tell you that they're okay with it. Yeah, of course. You don't want to. There are certain businesses that might not want to have a zombie apocalypse take place inside. Also, if you use portable toilets outside as an issue, tummy troubles. Nobody likes tummy troubles. Yes, did a bar scene with a crew, and they left the bar a mess. I helped clean up, and the others were like, "You don't even work. You don't work here." I said, "It's not right to leave it like this." Well, Stephen, we all know you're a respectful guy, and I'm sure they really appreciated that. But the truth is, some people just, I hate to use this word, but like they're just users. It's like they think sometimes, you hear this a lot. There's a term called film immunity, and it's not a good term, but certain filmmakers think they have this like film immunity where it's like, I'm an artist. I don't need to give a fuck about cleaning this place up. I'm coming in here to tell my story. We have people do that, and that's just such a horrible, horrible attitude. Laza, I went to a party when I was younger, and a heap of us, I love how you said a heap of us, so Australian. A heap of us were partying and trashed a motel. Probably the same with a film at times where people play up. Yeah, well, that's a no brainer, man. I mean, like, no, there's no partying at the location. That's always going to be a nightmare. You don't want people shouldn't be partying on movie sets anyway. Also, if you have a Machine Gun Kelly on your film set, it's good to cover yourself. Yeah, you need insurance and security in that case.
I think he gave you a callback. That's what's called a callback in the stand-up comedy world
Yeah,
to
we did.
last week.
We do appreciate that. Does shooting a movie in a film studio cut cost much? It's funny. You do cut some costs when you're filming at a studio, but you're also incurring a lot of costs because filming in a studio is very expensive unless you have some kind of an in, unless you know somebody, unless they're willing to give you a haircut on the fee. It costs a lot of money to rent out studios, which is why you'll see most independent productions tend to try to find existing locations. Um, Laza, I'm sorry, Andres. What's up, Andres?
Hey,
Good
he's
to see you,
back.
brother. The prison in Vault was pretty sweet too. That was a really cool location, and again, that was a defunct prison building, which was only shut down like fairly recently. Like they had just stopped using it. And the state of Rhode Island was just so great. Shout out to Steve Feinberg, the Rhode Island Film and Television Commissioner here in Rhode Island. They were just amazing about helping us facilitate all those different locations. Um, Laza, anything to learn from cheap porn films from the 80s with locations and budget, saving money, cutting costs? I gotta be honest with you. I would say the pornography film in the 80s probably had even bigger budgets and more interesting locations because those films back then were kind of put together more like C, D, B movie, B, D, and C movies rather than just smut. Whereas, I don't know, I don't watch a whole lot of that stuff, but it seems like most of the locations in pornography today are just some rich pornographer's mansion. Usually you get a lot of mansions and things like that, and Laguna type pools. We're talking porn locations on And Action.
Well,
Chelsea,
trauma. I wouldn't consider trauma films porn, Laza. I would consider trauma films like B movies, cult niche films. Yeah, trauma is not about sexual pornography. That's like the Toxic Avenger and Lloyd Kaufman, who I actually drove in my car once at the Rhode Island International Film Festival. And Lloyd's a gentleman. He's not a pornographer, Laza. I mean, I think you might be thinking of like B films. That's what trauma is. Thanks, buddy.
Laza, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate that. Andres, thank you, brother, and I appreciate the happy birthday greetings and always your amazing emojis. Idea for a topic: working with pro wrestlers in movies. Believe it or not, Laza, we already did that topic. You can go back in our archives. I want to say it was like maybe episode 20 something, 30 something. It was a while ago. I'll find out, and maybe Mike can do some research for us and shoot you a message, and you can listen to that one because we did a really nice episode on talking about wrestling in the movie business.
I think it was even earlier. I think it was like episode 3, to be honest. I
Yeah,
think that was.
it could have been very early on. All right, guys. Well, we really appreciate you sticking around with us today. We hope everyone had a great 4th of July. And now here we are, man. We're in the thick of the summer. It's kind of funny. Once you get past the 4th of July, the true meat of the summer is here. And now it's just smooth sailing to Halloween. So we hope everybody has a wonderful summer week. And hey, if you can't think of a fun topic idea for us right now, you can always shoot me a message on my social media. I'm on Instagram at Tom DiNucci. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, that's at Tom DiNucci Film. Just Google me. You'll find me. We really appreciate the shares. So if you watched along and you enjoy the show, make a fun little post for it on your Instagram. And I promise I'll share it out there and post it up on mine. And again, the interaction's everything. We can't thank you enough. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Mike, you got any final words for us?
I would say, if Andres wants to throw up his Instagram real quick, Andres always shares or he makes some promotional stuff for us. Stephen E. makes some promotional stuff for us. And if we can, help those guys out, if they throw up their Instagram or whatever, either this week or next week. Tommy, it's been a pleasure. Happy birthday once again, buddy. And, I would just say that as far as locations, man, I think the word to summarize it all up, man, is just respect. And I think, once again, these locations are doing the filmmaker a favor, not the other way around. Like you said, that filmmaker's immunity attitude has really got to stop. It's an arrogance, I think, is what that translates to. And I just think as filmmakers sometimes, buddy, we put so much work into our scripts, into our thoughts, we forget to realize that not everybody else has to care. They don't have to care if we want to make a movie. They don't have to care if we have a great bit of dialogue or a great story to tell or a great actress or actor. They don't have to care. So if you want them to care, show them the respect and the care for their business as you would like others to do to you and to your filmmaking career, whatever level it's on.
Yeah, just to add on to that, you're going to leave the next day and go edit your movie. They still got to open up and conduct their business. So the excitement's gone for them. Be respectful. And we appreciate you guys watching along. Thanks, everybody. Have an awesome week. We will see you next Tuesday on An Action, episode 53. Topic to be determined.